Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Let's get straight to the docket today because we have a big show for you. First, an update on the Orrin and Orson West case out there in California. A verdict just moments ago regarding the only officer charged with the Breonna Taylor raid. Ghislaine Maxwell, well, this is what's wrong with federal court. Let me explain that. A teacher of the year story, and this time I really mean it, the teacher of the year. 2 teenagers have been charged. I wonder if we should charge the parents. Another McDonald's incident. Sorry, McDonald's. Somebody said I was picking on McDonald's. I'm just telling you where the stories take place. Molotov cocktails. They're all the rage these days, but only in war zones. And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, aficionados. It is Thursday, March 3rd, 2022. Before we get to the docket, we got to take care of a little business. First, if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell so you receive notifications of when we go live or put up new content. And as always, if you can't watch us, you can always listen to us anytime, not only this episode, but all the others that we've done already, by simply searching for Crime Talk with Scott Reich on any of your favorite podcasting apps. You will find us there. And finally, our sponsor of the day. Now, if somebody had told me 2.5, 3 years ago that the entire economy would shut down because of a pandemic, I would have said, no way, you're joking. If somebody had told me roughly 2 weeks ago that we would probably be closer to nuclear war than we've probably been in the last 60 years, I would have said, you're kidding. But guess what? Both of those things happened, a pandemic, and now we have a Russian President Putin over there literally threatening nuclear war. Who would have thought? Well, yeah, as I've said before, there's only one person in the world that's going to take care of you when the rubber meets the road. And that's right. That's you. So you need to be prepared to take care of you and your family. So go to crimetalkprep.com. There's a link below. And when you do that, guess what? You're going to be able to get $150 off a 3-month supply of an emergency food kit. Now, this is enough to feed you and your family for the next 3 months. We're talking up to 2,000 calories per day. And this is what you're going to need. Listen, when things get crazy, and I know nobody thinks this stuff's going to happen. Hell, I didn't think it was going to happen, but you need to be prepared for the unexpected because there sure are a lot of unexpected things taking place these days. Be prepared. Go to crimetalkprep.com and get your 3-month emergency food kit, $150 off plus free shipping, and you're going to get that food and you're going to be happy that you did. All right, first on the docket, an update regarding the Orrin and Orson West boys who went missing. Well, as we brought you the news actually live the other night, Tuesday night, when we were doing our live show, the adoptive parents have been charged. And now the authorities are saying that they believe the long missing brothers, Orrin West 4 and Orson West 3, were killed 3 months. Get that? 3 months before they were reported missing back in December of 2020. The Kern County District Attorney, Cynthia Zimmer, said it's a horrific tragedy that these precious little boys had to lose their lives. Now, Orrin and Orson West are presumed deceased. They died 3 months before their adoptive parents reported them missing. The boys' adoptive parents, Trezell Philip West, 35, and Jacqueline Gabrielle West, 32, were indicted by a Kern County grand jury after a 3-month-long presentation of evidence. Now, Trezell and Jacqueline were arrested the other night by the Bakersfield Police Department and are being held without bail. They're charged with 2 counts each of murder in the 2nd degree and willful cruelty to a child. Now, in the press conference, the district attorney repeatedly said she was prohibited from discussing the facts of the case, citing her own interpretation of the California rules of legal ethics. Now, although she did explain the grand jury and the indictment process while defending the decision to go to trial without the bodies of the brothers being found. Now, the search for the boys began after the tragedy had already occurred, according to the Bakersfield Police Chief Greg Terry. He said during the press conference, this is not a resolution in this case, and there will not be a resolution in this case, not completely, until these boys are brought home. When asked by reporters as to why they were proceeding without the bodies of the boys on this homicide case, the DA became somewhat frustrated and returned to a previous defense she made of trial successfully where there was no body found. Now, as we've talked about that before, it's a lot easier if you have no bodies and you can actually have some evidence as to the death of the children, an eyewitness, or the destruction of the bodies, or something along those lines. And since the district attorney is not making comment, the affidavit for the arrest warrant has not yet been released, we're at a little bit of a blind spot here as we provide some of this information, and we just simply do not want to speculate as to what evidence the prosecution has. Now, Orrin West and Orson West were named by their birth parents Classic Pettis and Sincere Pettis at birth. Their biological father, Charles Pettis, raised concerns about the adoption process and had filed a lawsuit against the Kern County officials. The father had also expressed a little bit of dismay as to how the boys' blood relatives were made aware of the children's disappearance and presumed deaths. The DA announced that they are in contact with the biological family of the boys, but did not go into detail. The DA also declined to explain why the charges against the defendants are second-degree murder and if additional arrests were planned or if others specific about the 4 other children who were previously in the West household. A second-degree murder charge in California alleges that a criminal defendant acted with malice and intent, but without premeditation or deliberation. Both defendants are scheduled to be arraigned today, and it's my understanding that took place, and they both entered a plea of not guilty. I just don't understand this case. A little weird that the police took so long to figure out that apparently these children were missing for some 3 days. I don't know if it came through some sort of electronic search of phones or something along those lines. We just don't know enough information. But it makes you think, why would these people adopt these children and then not want them? It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. This is going to be an interesting one, and hard to believe it's taken almost a year and a half for the case to come forward. You just have to be patient sometimes. Breonna Taylor, remember that case from Louisville, Kentucky? Well, the former Louisville detective, Brett Hankinson, who was the only one charged in regards to the raid as it relates to Breonna Taylor, other than her boyfriend at the time, charges were dismissed. Well, Brett Hankinson testified in his own defense Wednesday about his actions during the police raid that left Breonna Taylor deceased. Now, Hankinson said the gunfire began with a muzzle flash that illuminated a shadowy silhouette, and he thought it was someone firing an automatic rifle at his fellow officers. Now, Hankinson was on trial for firing bullets into the adjacent apartment, endangering the pregnant neighbor, her child, and the boyfriend. When asked if he thought he did anything wrong, Hankinson replied, "Absolutely not." As for Breonna Taylor, he said she did not need to die that night. Breonna Taylor's mother, Tamika Palmer, then stormed out of the courtroom. Now, Hankinson said that as a police battering ram broke open Taylor's door, the blast of a gun lit up the apartment's hallway and his fellow officers fell wounded in the doorway. He said he thought the muzzle flash matched that of a long rifle. Prosecutors cast doubt on whether Hankinson could see through the front door and why he retreated to fire into the side of Taylor's apartment. Hankinson testified that he decided to get out of the fatal funnel as quickly as possible and get to a location where he could return fire. So he ran around a corner where he could see more muzzle flashes through a sliding glass door and bedroom window, despite their blinds being closed. Hankinson said he knew Sergeant Mattingly was down and knew they were trying to get him, so that is why he thought he could put rounds through that bedroom window and stop the threat. Investigators determined only one round was fired by Taylor's boyfriend, who said he thought it was an intruder breaking into the house. The other 32 bullets fired in the raid came from police. Prosecutors asked Hankinson why he didn't fire when he was at Taylor's front door. Hankinson replied, "I didn't respond because we were in that funnel." Hankinson said he was not concerned that when he fired through the sliding door that he might hit his fellow officers. He also said he didn't feel guilty about leaving his fellow officers in the fatal funnel. Hankinson was one of the only 2 witnesses called by his attorney before they finished their case yesterday on Wednesday. Closing arguments occurred, and, well, the jury deliberated, and they have found him not guilty of all charges. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's why you got to give everybody the presumption of innocence. You just never know what the jury is going to do. All right, Ghislaine Maxwell. The case was going to be set for March 8th. Well, for that whole juror issue. But this is an example of what's wrong with federal court. They never consult anybody's calendars. Now, they're better than they used to be, but it literally just be they would set a date and that would be it, and your schedule be damned. And it seems like that's kind of what happened here. Ghislaine Maxwell's efforts to get a new trial may have hit a bit of a roadblock. Ghislaine wants to overturn the conviction over the alleged allegations by a juror by the name of Scotty David, that he gave an incorrect answer, an alleged false answer, and he has stated that he is going to assert his Fifth Amendment rights if called to testify. That still just cracks me up. He doesn't think that somebody's entitled to a constitutional right to a fair and impartial jury, but he's going to wrap himself in the Constitution to protect his legal rights. You got to admit there's a little bit of irony there, don't you think? Anyway, the hearing was to be scheduled for March 8th, but lawyers have asked that it be pushed back nearly 2 months to May, citing that basically they're just a little too busy. Now, the government is resisting the attempt and says it will impact the rights of the victim to a speedy resolution of the process, and adjournment could delay sentencing, currently scheduled for June. And it's a clear indication the U.S. Attorney still believes Maxwell's conviction may not be overturned. The prosecution's filing said that the case deserves a timely resolution of the matter. And like I said, juror Scotty David told news organizations that he was a victim of child sexual abuse and had described his own experience in the jury room because that was not admitted into evidence and not subject to cross-examination. And is frankly completely irrelevant. Well, he shared that and basically helped convince some of the jurors as to the credibility of other individuals that did in fact testify. So according to filings, it's alleged that his own history would not necessarily trigger a refile, but Judge Allison Nathan ordered an inquiry specifically into whether the answers he gave in the jury's questionnaire were inaccurate. The court denied a request to conduct a similar inquiry into a second juror, also said to have been a victim of sexual abuse. David indicated through his lawyer that he will exercise his Fifth Amendment right to avoid incrimination. However, Maxwell's attorney suggests the government is in the process of negotiating an immunity to enable him to testify, which wouldn't surprise me because that's what happened in the Scott Peterson case as well just the other day on their juror issue. She had to get immunity by the district attorney's office, which is a promise basically by the district attorney not to prosecute her based upon the answers that she gave on the witness stand, which basically, didn't provide truthful information and all kinds of other weird stuff. But you'll got to go check that video out that we talked about yesterday. All right, next on the docket. Now, we always joke about we have a Teacher of the Year award here. Well, this time, we actually have a Teacher of the Year. An Indiana teacher and former Teacher of the Year was captured on school surveillance cameras chasing a student and slapping them on the face wearing a hoodie to class. Now, Mike Hosinski, a civics teacher at the Jimtown High School, has been allowed to take early retirement and will receive his full pension. Now, after the video emerged, it's not clear if he'll face criminal charges or not. Now, the student has not been named, reportedly broke the school rules by wearing a hoodie in class. The teacher grabs the student and then spins the kid around so they're facing each other. He slaps the child so hard that the head smacks into the wall. He tries to drag the child off, but the child falls to the ground where another adult rounds the corner and sees the interaction. Now, the Baugo Community School Superintendent, Brian Sanders, says the student suffered visible injuries and was treated by medical staff. It was initially reported that the teacher, Mr. Hosinski, was fired and banned from the school grounds, but on Monday, the community school board clarified that it had allowed Hosinski to take an early retirement and retain his full pension. Hosinski's been a teacher for 40 years and named Teacher of the Year at Jimtown in 2020. Parents were invited to attend the meeting and voice their concerns after seeing the video that was released Friday. And earlier that day, the students staged a walkout at the school in support of the teacher. As many described him as laid back. Apparently, only one parent publicly spoke out against Hosinski. I still back Mike Hosinski, a parent said hours after the video was released. According to the Indiana Code, Section 20-33-8-9, disciplinary powers of teachers and school staff members, it states, and an individual can take any action that is reasonably necessary to carry out or prevent interference with an educational function that the individual supervises. There's been a little bit of talk here at the CrimeTalk studios as to whether maybe Mr. Hosinski went a little too far or not. All I know is when I was a kid, my parents told the teachers that they had their permission, my parents' permission, to do whatever I needed if I acted up. And I knew that if I acted up at school, going home was going to be the worst thing that would ever happen to me. Now, I don't know anything about this kid. He may be the nicest kid in the world, or he could be a complete smartass who probably said something back to the teacher, and the teacher, after 40 years, probably just had enough. Now, remember, the whole doctrine of when kids go to school is that the school steps in as the parents, and it's called parentis loci, and teachers basically have the ability to discipline children. Now, most teachers are smart enough not to touch any kids because it's just going to result in lawsuits and all that kind of stuff, which may be a reason why there's, well, so much disciplinary issues in school these days. I don't know. Tell me, did Mr. Hosinski do the right thing, or do you think, get over it, kid? You got a lot worse coming towards you in life, particularly if you're talking back to teachers. I don't know. Let me know. Now, two tweens, that's right, two 12-year-old girls were arrested after they allegedly tortured another girl on the same age by beating her, burning her with cigarettes, shaving her head, and sitting on her until she couldn't breathe during a sleepover. Boy, we got a lot to talk about at the end of this story, don't we? Police said the incident took place last Friday night. They received photos and videos from the victim's family of the girl being abused. The victim's mother, Jamie Tribbert, said this wasn't just bullying, but rather a serious crime committed against her daughter. They tortured her, Tribbett said, mentally, physically tortured my daughter, and it's not right. Now, the Logansport police said one of the arrested girls faces juvenile charges of battery, criminal confinement, and intimidation. The second girl has yet to be charged, and the investigation is still ongoing. Now, the victim is apparently recovering, but their mother said that she will probably spend the rest of her life wondering who she can trust. Of course, if you keep pumping that into her, of course that's what she's going to believe. Now, Miss Tribbett said, I hope that my daughter can get justice, and that the other little girl, I hope that she stays in there for a long time and gets the help that she needs. All right, let's talk about this, ladies and gentlemen. First, what is one of the rules that Scott Reich has always said? Kids don't need to go over for sleepovers, okay? There's only one reason why you go over to a sleepover, and that's to do what you can't do at home. And for all of the people that say, Scott, parents are absolutely responsible for everything the kids do. Oh, I see some criminal charges, don't you? Where were these parents that were supposedly at the sleepover? Clearly, they cannot control their children. They have no idea what was going on. They should have known. They must have known. Charge them all. And even for the victim's daughter, why would she send her daughter over to such a hostile environment? What kind of true mother would do that? You see how ridiculous things can become, people, when you start charging everybody because it makes you feel good? Exactly. It gets ridiculous. And guess what? Someday that could be you. And I assure you, I've had lots of parents who sat in my conference room and said, why is little Johnny in so much trouble? And why do they want to send him to prison for a minimum of 10 years? And say, well, because nobody stood up and said mandatory minimums were dumb laws, because we want each defendant to be punished on their own individual characteristics and not some cookie cutter approach that everybody is exactly the same. Hopefully that's something you can think about. All right. Sorry, McDonald's. I had somebody the other day said, why do you keep picking on McDonald's? Why are all these stories coming from McDonald's? I don't know why they keep coming from McDonald's. Maybe because McDonald's sells lots of food at inexpensive prices. Okay? I don't know. but I haven't heard of a whole lot of crime taking place at high-end steakhouses. Just saying, all right? Now, and don't get me wrong, who doesn't love a good McDonald's fry? I do, obviously. Now, a 16-year-old McDonald's employee in Arizona was shot during a fight in the restaurant's bathroom. The teenager, Prince Ned, got into an altercation about 10:15 a.m. on Wednesday at the fast food outlet where he worked near 51st Avenue and Baseline Road in West Phoenix. Police say they believe the victim knew the man who shot him, and after the shots were fired, the suspect fled the McDonald's. Now, Sergeant Vincent Cole of the Phoenix Police Department said in a statement, "There is a person of interest that we're looking for. We're not releasing too many details on the suspect at this time." He added that he does not believe the wider public is in any danger at this time. Now, Travis Heriod, the owner and operator of the McDonald's, said in a statement, "We are saddened by the tragic loss of our friend and our colleague. Our organization's biggest priority is always the safety and well-being of our employees and customers at our restaurants, and we are fully cooperating with the police department in the investigation." Miguel Nolasco, another McDonald's employee, arrived for his shift after the shooting and said that he and his coworkers were close, like family, he said. "I did not expect just how to show up to work and see a bunch of police tape like that. That's terrible." And the Phoenix police said anyone with information about the shooting on Wednesday morning should call the police department at 602-262-6151. Tragic loss. It doesn't sound like the victim had anything to do with it. We'll have to wait and see if more information comes out. Okay, Molotov cocktails. They are all the rage. You see it all going on about making them in the Ukraine right now. And that's where they should be made because, well, it's a war zone. Let's not throw them through people's windows at home. That's allegedly what a Florida woman was arrested for after she allegedly threw a Molotov cocktail through the window of her ex-boyfriend's house while his teenage brother was inside on Monday afternoon. Madoshi Darius, 14, heard the bedroom window shatter and noticed the home filling with smoke. A Molotov cocktail, for those of you who don't know, is a small homemade firebomb that is typically cheap and small enough to be thrown with one hand. The first recorded use was during the Spanish Civil War, but Molotov cocktails are still used in modern warfare. Now, Gail Simius, 22, was arrested on Wednesday in connection with the arson investigation and faces multiple felony charges, including arson, property damage worth $1,000 or more, and a weapons offense. Now, Simius' ex-boyfriend, Derilius' older brother, and his family said she was allegedly targeting him. The Molotov cocktail landed inside the bedroom and lit the mattress on fire. Luckily, no one was hurt during the fire. On Wednesday morning, the public information officer, Nestor Montoya, stated that the investigation revealed Simius threw the water bottle filled with an accelerant into the bedroom through the window. The sheriff says, as you can probably understand, there's absolutely zero tolerance for anyone who commits crime in Lee County. Those who do, eventually, at some point, our detectives will catch up to you and you will face justice. Don't throw things at other people, ladies and gentlemen. It's kind of like don't take other people's things, don't destroy their things either, and don't try to burn them with a Molotov cocktail, for God's sakes. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day, Christina Blair. That's right, take a look. She's from Albuquerque, and it is alleged that she became triggered, that's right, triggered upon seeing the man's bumper sticker, which declared that he had been vaccinated against COVID. Blair then apparently started honking her horn and cursing at him. She followed the vehicle to the Walgreens after the victim accidentally backed into Blair's car while trying to get away from her. Blair then pulled out a handgun in a threatening manner. The man backed away and called 911, fearing that Blair was going to shoot him. The victim caught the incident on camera, but the footage has not yet been released. I'd like to see it. Police were able to track down Blair from the license plate caught in the video. Blair admitted to pulling the gun, but said she did so because she was in fact scared. Blair has since been charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Blair's criminal history shows 4 juvenile offenses that were all violent in nature, according to court records. Well, Ms. Blair, you are a dumb criminal of the day. We just talked about this the other day. I'm telling you, go back and watch. Was it Monday, I think it was? The guy that was getting rid of the porch pirate had the gun on him, never pointed at anybody, exercised good muscle discipline, not pointing at anybody, keeping it down, but letting him know he had it. Yeah. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I've told you before, guns complicate everything. So, Miss Blair, that is why you are a dumb criminal today, at least for pulling out a gun and honking at the guy because of his vaccination status. Really? Come on. It's America, for God's sakes. All right. That's all we have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.